snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books.
Hi guys, so I'm here today to do a book review, and the book that I'm going to be reviewing is actually one I went into with quite low expectations, and I read this as part of the BookTube SFF Awards shortlist. That is the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, and the reason that I went into this with quite low expectations is because the only previous book I had read by N.K. Jemisin was The 100,000 Kingdoms, and I was not a fan of that one. It was badly structured, I didn't enjoy it, I felt like the plot was dull, and when it wasn't dull it was insane and not in a good way, so I didn't like that book as a whole and I was quite sceptical of this one. However, I'm glad to say that this book proved my opinion completely obsolete, and I was completely wrong about whether I would like this. It was really wonderfully written, and N.K. Jemisin has obviously come a long way from her debut book. Hopefully I will be able to pick up some of her other books since then and enjoy them a lot more. Now, what I liked about this, and also what I didn't like about this, was that there are 3 point of view characters. 2 point of view characters told in third person like a normal book, and then we have one which is told in second person. Now, second person I find really quite jarring. It can be done well, but I do find it's quite a struggle for myself personally to enjoy it. However, I will say that I did persevere with it, and I did really like what she did with that point of view character later on in the story, so I was very glad that it was told that way once I got to the end. So if that is bothering you or sort of throwing you off and you're reading this, don't be completely put off, because it's there for a reason and it makes sense in the end, and I liked that. I will say that this book definitely surprised me. It has a really interesting magical system where we focus on land and the manipulation of the elements as a kind of magical system, and I liked that a lot. We have a few different characters that we're focused on. A young girl who cannot control her powers, and she therefore is called a Roga or a Roga, and that's basically the name that they give to people in this world who get powers. Most of the natural disasters that happen within this world are caused by people not being able to control their powers, and that's why the world has so many natural disasters of a kind. The magic of this world is very volatile. It is something that is quite hard to control unless you have specific training, and the places that train up people in this world are usually pretty harsh and pretty bitter and pretty nasty, and if you do get discovered to have the power and the magic within this world, you're probably going to have to become enslaved to various other people within the world for people to trust you or even hire you, or even be near you. It's not a very nice thing to discover that you have magic within this world. Although it is very powerful and very useful, most people really are terrified of you, and you won't get a great reputation by having magic in this world. It's not a desirable thing. So the young girl that we're following, who cannot control her powers, gets taken by the Fulcrum, and the Fulcrum are basically an organisation where they take young rogues who cannot control their powers and they train them and they discipline them and they educate them a lot about their powers. Of course, with any corrupt society, they don't necessarily tell you everything about your power, only what they need to tell you to control you. The second storyline that we're following is a 4-ringer lady who has already been trained up at the Fulcrum, and now she is out doing various different tasks for the people who employ her. She has been paired with a 10-ringer to fulfill her duty. Basically, in this world, you can go through the ranks of various different rings, and she has 4 and he has 10, so he's obviously superior in terms of control and power to her, and once you have 10 rings, you're pretty much unstoppable. I said in this world that it's not very desirable to have magic, but if you have 10 rings, you're probably going to be pretty invincible, and to be honest, not a lot of other magic users would be able to stop you unless they are also 10 ringers themselves, so that in itself is fairly desirable. In terms of fulfilling her duty, she is sent off to marry this guy, or at least have sex with him, because they want to create more children who have the magic in this world. Even though magic is not desirable, the Fulcrum desire magic so that they can control people and have absolute dominion over the people who have magic. They want magical pairs to breed magical children so that they can basically use them for whatever they need them to do, some of which is quite sinister. This second storyline character, the 4-ringer, I actually really enjoyed her character. I found her to be light and fun and very outspoken at times, and she just was someone that I could connect with quite easily and relate to her story quite easily. She's enigmatic, she wants to learn, she believes in herself, she has confidence in herself, and when that's questioned, she's quite prickly, which is understandable because she is very established just having 4 rings. It's fairly unheard of to have 10. The other great thing about her as a character was that she was a very charismatic one, and she also is at a point in her life where lots of things are starting to change and lots of really interesting moments are starting to occur, so that was pretty cool to follow. The final storyline, as I said, was the second person storyline, which at first I found really hard to follow. I wasn't really sure why it was told that way. I found it very jarring, it was quite irritating, and I just wasn't a big fan. However, as it went on, I did see why she had done it, like I say, and I think it was a really interesting decision on the author's part to do it that way, and I definitely liked when we later on found out exactly why. Second person story follows a woman after her husband has tried to kill her child, who was a Rugger, because he discovered that his child was a Rugger. He was not magical, so he must have known that it came from her, but I guess he couldn't bring himself to kill her too, so he has left her and abandoned her, and she is on her own with a dead child and nowhere to go. So she decides she needs to leave the town where she is. She cannot stay there, and so she has to go on a quest to try and find her other children with her husband, and also just to get herself away from the situation where everyone is going to look to her and judge her because they know that she is probably the one that the child inherited his magic from. Again, another reason this storyline wasn't as interesting at first is because I felt like this one took the longest to sort of get going. Once it did, it was interesting, but it definitely was a slower build up than the previous 2 storylines. So just bear that in mind if you're reading it. It does get better, and it is there for a reason. As a whole, I would say that this isn't the easiest book to get into. It does require a bit of attention, and initially you have lots of things being thrown at you which are quite difficult to get your head around initially. I actually read this whilst Eleanor from Eleanor Reads Books was reading it, and we did a buddy read, so I'll link her channel below, and we were discussing it as we went, and there are a few times where Eleanor and I were a little bit unsure about exactly what certain things meant, but as the book went on I felt like it was all explained, and if it wasn't explained it's probably going to be explained in book 2, which I'm very excited about. So it's worth sort of persevering through the first 100 or so pages, because once you get to the halfway mark things really pick up and things get pretty exciting from that point onwards as well. So I definitely recommend this, but I think go into it knowing that it's a little bit more difficult than your average read in terms of narrative structure. This was a fantastic story once I was into it, and I really was surprised by how far N.K. Jemisin has come since her first book that I read and really didn't like. So I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was beautifully written in the end, and I loved all the revelations that we got nearer to the second half. Would definitely recommend this, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it if you have read it as well. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave me all your comments below and I will chat to you later on, and see you in my next video. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.